Hi, everybody. Well, I've got probably the newcomer of the year here with me. Nicholas Alexander Chavez of General Hospital is here, who plays Spencer Cassadine. Thank you so much for taking the time. This is our first meeting.
This is our first meeting. Thank you so much for having me, though, Michael. It's such a pleasure to be on the show with you. Thank you.
Yeah, and so talk to me about this whirlwind. You know, you came onto the show. I don't know if you anticipated, and I've been doing this a lot of years, okay? So the fan reaction has been they really took to you, right? And it's kind of taken on, like, you become very popular very quickly. So how are you processing this and kind of what's happening in your world?
Well, first and foremost, I think that everything comes back to the writers and the people behind the show, right? I mean, I've been very, very fortunate to, number one, I walked into a really, really great storyline. And the Cassadines are an amazing family, and there's been amazing actors who have portrayed my family members throughout the generations. So I ultimately, like, in the beginning, you're walking on to something that is already so, so, so amazing. And the number one thing that you got to do is just not mess it up.
I hope I don't mess this
Right.
up.
So if you don't mess it up, you're
Yeah,
usually doing a pretty good job.
right.
So that's first and foremost. Number two, I mean, the other actors that was working with, they were so generous from the get-go that it really demanded that I kind of be on the level with them. And so it was just a combination of those other things and just taking to that environment in the best way that I possibly could that I think led to that outcome. But yeah, very, very thankful that they're as pleased with me as I hoped that they would be. Ultimately, I was very, very blessed by being able to work with such amazing writers and such amazing actors on the show, right? So it's like they just handed me an amazing storyline on a silver platter. And like I said, my job ultimately was to not mess it up and to do the work that they required of me with my coaches and making sure that I was able to bring truth to those moments. And when you're given a plot like that, just do it to the very, very best of your ability. Take everything as a reality, and then I think that that's what we're seeing the response to right now. And I'm really grateful that they're enjoying the show.
Right. And you saw, like, Nicholas Bechtel had played the role before you, which is a much different take on a character, and they aged him up with you. But he went through kind of the things that what your character is now going through, like the lie about the father for three, like all the things that happened to him. Did you watch any of that stuff, or did you stay away from all that?
I did. I watched some of it because I was of course interested. Like, you always want to see,
What am I playing?
Yeah, right. Like, how did they take it? And also, um, when there is when someone gets rapidly aged, right? I mean, or anytime there's a recast, like I look at the Matrix trilogy, and the Oracle got recast, I think, in the second or the third one. And you're trying to figure out, like, okay, is she doing her own thing? Is she looking for like similarities? And those actors are put in a tough position, right? Because they have to bridge the gap. But my personal acting philosophy with it is that you just have to look at the facts of the character, right? I mean, and what is the background? What has this person dealt with? What kind of psychological place are they operating from? What resources do they have? What resources do they don't have? And you have to compile all that information. And ultimately, as an actor, you have to make an interpretation of those facts and then create behavior from that interpretation. So the interpretation and the behavior that gets created in Nicholas Bechtel is going to be far, far different than the one that will be taken in me. And that's fine. And that's kind of interesting too, as a viewer, to see how one person could manifest the same series of facts.
Right. So he's really got an axe to grind with his dad.
Right. Yeah, he sure does. Yeah. I mean,
it's how is playing with Marcus and the scenes, and how are you playing that? Because this is his overriding, it just seems he can't get past his anger towards his father for all that he did to him, or thinks he did to him.
Yeah,
That he did to him.
Yep, it's a very complex relationship because there's so much that's tied up in it, right? You have everything from your childhood, then you have that he was dead for 3 years and you didn't know, and you felt like he just kind of abandoned me, right? And just sent me off to boarding school, you know, money fixes everything type mentality. And so there's a lot of trust that's been thrown out the window with those two. And Spencer is a sensitive guy. So I think in all the scenes, he's really just surveying what is Nikolas doing, right? How is he behaving? Because he's looking for any clues that he can get about where do I stand in relation to other people, because it's always in flux. And so I think that when you're acting with Marcus Coloma, when you're acting with Maura West, you really have to be listening more than just focused on, you know, what's my objective. You have to be paying attention to how are they behaving, and you need to respond in accordance with that. And that's the only way that the scene's going to work.
Were you intimidated working with Maura and Marcus or anybody when you started on the show?
I don't know if intimidated is the right word. It was more just excitement, honestly. Like, right. I was very excited to be working with people who had done it for a long time, and I was eager to see what I could learn from all of them.
Right. Was there one thing technically that you learned, you know, because all soaps have cameras and you have to look at that? Like, was there more of the technical stuff that you
There were several things technically that I had to get up to speed on, right. But I don't know. I would say that the first week from a technical standpoint was a little bit, you know, touch and go. But after that, I kind of settled into it, and you realize, I mean, there are still times where they got to be like, hey, Nick, can you see the camera? Because the camera can't see you, buddy.
Where's your light? Get in your light.
Right. So you know, you're always learning, and you know, you're focused on so many other things. They're there to remind you, in part, you know, like, hey, I know you're focused on the circumstance of this scene, just so you know, take a half step to your right so that we can see it, or what, you know, whatever it might be. And so we're lucky to have such a patient and welcoming crew on our hands who are able to address those things when they come up. But yeah, sure, there's a technical learning curve, certainly.
Now everybody loves Sprina.
Yeah.
So you're like, wait, Sprina's taken off too. Like, that's taken off. And how is it working with Sydney Mikala? And did you guys instantly hit it off, or was it like challenging?
Well, we had my first scenes on the show were with her. So she was also kind of my first friend on the show, because we were just working together at that point. And she's lovely. I mean, I have nothing but good things to say about her. Incredibly smart, incredibly talented, very, very generous actress, always comes super duper prepared to work, as is evident by the quality of scenes that she's able to do. And yeah, it's amazing. And I'm really thankful that the fans have had that kind of response to that, because I personally see it as being Spencer's most valuable relationship that he has, because it's really the most authentic relationship and most authentic friendship that exists in his universe. And she's able to give him a kind of advice that really no one else is.
Well, and then they have these kind of longing looks at each other.
Yeah.
Are those, you know, it's like, okay, do those longing looks like you have to stare for a while? Are those weird to play on camera where you have
No, because I think Spencer really likes her that much. I mean, they wait 5 seconds to say cut after the last line has been said. And so you as the actor need to fill in what's happening for yourself there, because you can't just be standing there as the actor and be like, okay, I'm the actor and I'm looking at Sydney and this is taking forever. You have to do everything in your power to create the reality for yourself so that you're not thinking those thoughts. And so if you can fill it with just, no, he just loves her and wants her that badly that he would look at her for that long, and they would have this kind of showdown of the eyes, so to speak, then it's going to ring as a true moment, as opposed to something that is I don't know, soapy or
soapy. Yeah. And then Esme got brought in. Did you know that was going to happen from the beginning when you came in, that he was going to have?
No, that was a huge curveball for everyone.
Were you like, what's this?
Frank comes up to me and he goes, Nick, I'm getting you a girlfriend. which is a funny thing to hear. But he's like, yeah, we're bringing on someone new to the show. She's going to play your girlfriend from boarding school. And I was like, great, that sounds amazing. And I remember those scenes that we filmed on the Windermere balcony as being so horribly awkward, right? Because it's like, you love Trina so much, and you've said very intimate things to her, you already kind of have a little bit of history with the lies that happened in the beginning. And then now here Esme comes, my girlfriend, and blows up the whole spot. So it was an interesting change to the dynamic, but one that I think actually deepens how much Spencer and Trina love each other, because now there's an obstacle between them, or several obstacles, and it's like a testament to how strong the romance is, like the number of obstacles that they have to overcome to eventually be together.
Right, you need an interloper. You know what I mean? Because any great love story, you know, it's the wait to get them together. And I don't think Esme's going to be going away that easy. So,
I don't think so either.
How is working with Avery?
Great. She's an amazing actress. We have the same acting coach, so sometimes we'll be able to compare notes and things like that, and then we'll also sometimes create little secrets for ourselves that we won't tell the other person, which makes things very fun too. So we'll create something that'll just kind of make the scene come a little bit more alive, right? Like if you know a secret about the other person or about yourself that you're not willing to share, then it just gives that scene the extra little bit of like liveliness that it sometimes needs to translate on the screen.
So let's talk about the scenes that you need to submit for the Emmys. I really loved the scene that everybody talked about when you stood up to Nikolas, remember? And you were, it was at Windermere, and you were in tears, and he had just what he did to you, and you were pushing back on him. Do you remember taping those scenes and what it felt like to do those scenes?
I do. Yeah. Those were pretty hard. The stabbing scenes, the fake stabbing scenes at Windermere were really hard. And then the ones at Ava's Gallery were also really, really, really difficult. I mean, it's interesting because I love my real life dad so much, and we have such a great relationship. And Marcus has a daughter, and they have an amazing relationship. And so when we both enter into this new reality where we don't have that kind of relationship, it can feel very, very jarring. And but they were. It was a pleasure to be able to film those scenes, and you can only get to that vulnerable of a place if you're working with generous actors, and everyone who was in that scene was very, very generous. And I think that the whole thing played nicely as a result of everyone's generosity.
It was amazing. You were amazing in it. It was it was a beautifully played scene, because you felt it was heartbreaking. At the same time, he deserved it. Like it was just all very layered.
The difference, yeah, right. But the difference between like him standing up to him at Windermere and him standing up to him at Ava's Gallery is actually leaps and bounds. Right. Because at that time, they didn't know he was the stalker. And Nikolas had just accused Spencer of being the stalker. And he's using this emotional cry, right, to manipulate him into making him look like this evil person who did this to his son unjustly, when in actuality he is the stalker, and he is maybe not deserving of that, but is deserving of some kind of punishment, certainly. And whereas in Ava's Gallery, you really have a coming of self. Nikolas is clearly in the wrong. We found out that he tried to have Hayden murdered. I mean, all of this stuff is happening. I don't even know who my dad is anymore. So it's two very, very different things, but both equally justified from Spencer's point of view. I think even when he was manipulating him, he still felt like that was the right thing to do. He wasn't in the wrong.
And then now we just learned that Victor Cassadine, who you're now, Charles Shaughnessy, is in the mix. Valentin's father is revealed, and then you're there. And how do you think Victor will be with Spencer? Do you think they'll have interaction? And do you think?
I think they'll have interaction. It's interesting. I'm not sure. I know they'll have interaction. I don't know where it's going to go, because Victor's a very, very powerful guy, and he also has very interesting, touchy relationships with people in Port Charles, like Laura, my grandmother, and he's a notorious guy, right? But I think also someone who Spencer really looks up to as being powerful and being this kind of guy who gets what he wants out of life, which ultimately is what Spencer wants to be. So yeah, they'll certainly have some interaction with each other. They're going to have a lot of fun, a lot of drama, and I'm just as interested as you are to see where it'll go.
Yeah, and you actually, I read, if I'm correct, so you're waiting tables at the diner right now.
At Kelly's, yeah.
Kelly's. And did you also do that at one point in your life?
Wait tables.
Because wasn't there something like I thought I read something where you did it once and
yeah,
I did too. I hated it so much I almost threw the food at people. It's bad.
It's so funny. I worked, my first job was at a breakfast restaurant in Denver, Colorado, where I grew up. It was called Snooze.
Snooze.
And it's now a chain, but I worked at their flagship, their location, their first one. And I started off as a host, but I was there really, really early in the morning, like 6 a.m. So I hadn't quite woken up yet. But, a host is supposed to be bright and friendly and all these different things. And I was none of those things because it was 6 a.m. And so they're like, all right, Nick, you're a sassy junior in high school. We're going to move you to bus boy because we can't have customers complaining about how cringy you're being in the morning time. And so they moved me to bus boy, and then I did that for like the rest of the summer. But yeah, I have some restaurant experience. Me and Spencer are probably both equally bad at working in restaurants.
Equally bad as a restaurant. Right. And then you got to work with Genie Francis, Maurice Bernard, some of these iconic people of General Hospital. And how have they treated you? And how was it working with them?
It was great. I mean, they've been very, very, very welcoming. They're always beaming when they're at work because I think that they have the same perspective I do, which is that they're very grateful to be there. And so because the environment is so born out of gratitude, it's just a really positive place to work. So I'm very grateful to be working with those guys and all be hanging out. And then in a professional capacity, just because they've been doing it for so long, whenever we have scenes together, you're constantly learning something new, which is amazing.
So you were on The Talk, you won the Soap Hub Award for Newcomer. What was it like being on The Talk and receiving that award? Was it kind of like, were you shocked? No.
I was shocked. Yeah, I was very happy to be there, but yeah, I was definitely surprised just because it was such a big nod, and I was very thankful to get it from the fans because it's who the show is for. You know what I'm saying? Like, the show is for the fans. It's not for anyone else. It's not for, us to go home and enjoy. Sometimes I do, but it's not for me. It's for the millions of people who tune in every day and who have tuned in for years or decades or whatever it might be. And so to see that they had that kind of response was really, really, really encouraging.
And then you decided on Twitter, right? You were doing Sundays your social media day.
That's what I'm trying to do with Twitter and Instagram. It's really an aspiration. I'm not always great about it because sometimes, we have things like this and I want to let people know. And I'm like, well, It's not Sunday, but and people need to know that I did this interview because they want to watch it. And so it's really more of an aspiration of a place that I'm trying to get to. It's not something that I hold myself to super duper strictly, but it's a place that I'd like to get to because I think that technology is only going to keep getting more and more invasive in our lives, and we need to find time to put it in a slot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's so interesting. What do you want to see happen for Spencer? Like, what's your ultimate, do you want to keep playing him? Does he have a come to Jesus and change of heart in anything? Or do you want him to continue to be troubled and conflicted? And where do you want him to go? What do you see for him? I know you're not writing the show.
I'm not writing the show.
But
I do see Spencer as the kind of guy who came back to Port Charles for a reason. And the reason he came back is to get what is rightfully owed him. And I do believe that he has feelings about what he is owed and what his birthright is. And so I would like to see him
take down Valentin.
come to terms with that and then just completely be ruthless about his pursuit of it. And I think that would be very, very interesting to watch.
I think that would be great to have a ruthless young man who's
just ready to go out and get what he wants. Ooh, I think it'd be great.
Right.
It'd be great.
Now, what about?
So I could see him working with Sonny. I could see him doing a number of things, but I'm interested to see what happens next for him for sure.
But he does have a vendetta with Valentin.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, that's not going away. Yeah.
That's not. I think that should just continue to be revved up.
I love that. I think it's great. James Patrick Stuart is an amazing actor, and so I would love to do some more scenes with him.
That'd be great. That'd be great. And what are the fans saying to you? Like, what do they say to you, or what are you hearing? Like, oh, I love you. Like, what's the positive you're getting from it?
Just all around. You mean?
Yeah. Like, what's the takeaway from their experience of you in the role?
Yeah, I think that they like the acting that's happening, and they like the choices that are being made on screen. I try to always go for the most active choice as opposed to like kind of like a passive choice, and I think that active choices can be interesting to watch. Ultimately, I'm just looking to give an entertaining and authentic performance, and I think that for the people who are connecting with the work, that's ringing true, and I'm glad that it is.
And what's your dad, your real life dad? Is he watching the show?
Yeah, he is.
And did he ever watch General Hospital? Did anybody watch it before?
No, my grandparents would watch it sometimes, but
what does dad think?
He loves it. He loves it. He, I come home and he wants to make all of his predictions about what he thinks is going to happen next. And I've filmed a month ahead of where they're at, right? Because we film about a month in advance, and so he's like, "So what happens with this and this?" And I'm like, "I'm not going to tell you that."
Do you have him weigh in on his predictions, and then he weighs in, and then you don't tell him?
Yeah, I can't. Well, I'm not going to tell him. That ruins all the fun.
Did the group with Eden McCoy and William Lipton and the teen group, did they give you any pointers when you came to the show? Did they help you with anything, or?
It wasn't really so much like pointers. It was more just like, let's all hang out. Let's all be friends. Let's go get lunch together. Let's hang out and talk about things. They're both in school now, so it's like, how's school going? I've done college before, so I'm sometimes able to give a little bit of advice about things that I would have done differently were I to start at my freshman year again. But yeah, it's more than anything just a really, really nice friendship that we all have, and it makes us all that much more happy to go to work.
Well, Nicholas, thank you so much for taking some time today. It is so great to meet you.
Oh, of course, likewise.
You're doing a great job.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much for having me on the show. It's been a pleasure.
Of course. And hopefully one day we'll all see each other in person,
Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be nice? We can all hope, right?
For now, here we are. You have a happy holiday, and we'll speak again.
Likewise, Michael. Alrighty, sounds good. Have a good one. Bye-bye.